All right, folks. Welcome into Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. Normally, 11-5 win, we'd be very happy. But unfortunately, at the end of this game, disaster struck. And look, I'm not saying, Oswaldo Cabrera is a superstar, but you have to feel for just him, the presence he has in that clubhouse. Just these players to go through that and watch their brother go down at the end of the game like that, just awful. And Gary, the thing here is that this is a rare occurrence, not just for Cabrera. This is just a rare occurrence in general. You don't normally see these type of injuries, and you normally don't see them in that situation. If you see them, it's normally going down the first baseline, knowing that we probably need a two-bag system going down the first baseline.
Right.
And that's when disaster strikes. That's normally when we see those kind of awkward, turn of an ankle or something. But this was heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking because, Oswaldo Cabrera is a homegrown Yankee. And, like I said, we may have our criticisms of the player here and there, and he doesn't have pop, but he's a homegrown Yankee. He's become the starting third baseman of this team. He's worked his tail off to get there. He's well-liked, and, he's a great teammate. And so it just sucks to see anybody get hurt. We just saw Jason Tatum got hurt in the NBA.
That's right, yeah.
I think he's done, honestly. I think that was a torn Achilles. But you hate injuries. You really hate injuries, and it gets magnified. Like Tatum at the end of that game, they weren't going to win. Well, how about at the end of this game when the Yankees had taken an now 11-5 lead because Cabrera's run, that run did not feel meaningful at all, and it sucked to see him go down in those circumstances. So obviously, we're hoping for the best. We're not expecting the best. I don't want to speak for you, Gary, but that didn't look good.
Well, I saw a still frame of what it looked like when he was diving back to the plate. And to see, it reminded me a lot of the Hayward injury in the NBA, where his ankle is turned the opposite direction. And it's terrible. It just awful. Is. And obviously, when you see great players get hurt, a lot of fans sort of say, this just sucks, why us? And they don't really think about the personable part of it when it's a player who's a bubble player on the roster, even a starter, someone that a lot of us have had conversation about what we do at third base. And then for the guy who has the job currently, who still has to fight his way to be on this roster, to go down like that, there's no guarantees for this player going forward. He's got a lot of work ahead of him now at this point, and that's what sucks, and it just stings so bad to see a player that's on the bubble of the roster go down like that. And you actually told me right before we hit the live button that DJ LeMahieu is coming back to this roster this week. And to see that, and you're thinking, okay, we somewhat have some depth, right? We've got some bodies to throw at this position, and it can help players get through healthy throughout the regular season, and then this happens. It's a bummer. There's no other way to put it. It took the win right out of our sails for this win, and the Yankees now know that DJ LeMahieu, we'll talk about this later in the show as well, of what happens at this position long term, because now DJ LeMahieu is a player that's going to have to play. And Peraza, as you mentioned, Jake, again, before the show started, he now has, he's essentially has the floor to now play. So not the way you want anyone to win a job or be on the field to begin with, but that's the situation and the cards that we unfortunately have been dealt.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the irony here is this is third base. I can think of a significant third base injury, a guy that was playing really well in Andujar, who we just saw in the A's series. And do you remember what happened when Andujar went down? He never returned to form, but do you remember who took over for him?
Was it Gio?
It was Gio Urshela, who are now they're now opposite on the team. Right. One guy is starting, the other guy is kind of taking a back seat. But it is a reminder that there is an opportunity here. And as sad as that sounds, that's what ultimately, it's not what they're hoping for, but that's why they're there. Backup players guys that are rotational guys that are, utility guys, this is the only way they get an opportunity to be a starter. And I think this is a golden opportunity for Peraza. I also, Gary, want to talk about this. Not only is it a golden opportunity for Peraza, it could very well keep B-Boss on the roster because you had to move one guy down, and now it's like, see, Johnny Lowe is going to be coming up, so they're going to have to move another guy down, so forth. So I do think they'll move Pablo Reyes down. But B-Boss...
So there's a ripple here, is what you're talking about.
There's
now
lot,
a giant
more
ripple.
than you think about. Because think
There
about
is.
it. Well, not really, because we talked a little bit about it off air. But the point being, there is a ripple, and we've mentioned on this show potential, what if they go out and get Nolan Arenado? What if they go out and they trade for Brendan Donovan? These are now guys that I think are more in play than they were yesterday. And I think that's the thing, is they feel good about Peraza on this roster. He's been playing a lot more lately. He had a hit today. He had some decent at-bats. But the thing about Peraza is that they haven't been high on him throughout his time as a Yankee. They haven't really given him a lot of opportunities. So are they going to sit by and let him be that guy? Or are they going to be like, you know what? We liked Cabrera, and now we kind of feel like we just have a guy that's kind of a tweener. We want to go out and, address the position. But then it brings me to the last ripple, Gary. And I'm not saying it'll happen, but now the door is open for a George Lombard Jr. call-up earlier than expected. I'm not saying it'll happen now.
Wow.
But can you really imagine that? We were talking about it. You and I were talking about it, how George Lombard Jr., we would call him up early, around the deadline, if he continued to play the way he was. But this really, it's sad, but this is essentially sports, guys. And this opens up the door for other guys. It's a next man up business. I mean, any business is, right?
Didn't Derek Jeter technically, when he got called up the first time, wasn't it due to injury? I believe our shortstop broke his leg.
It was. Yes, it
Right.
was. And
so
then,
that's the bummer. It's like you're
It is a
looking at a
bummer.
player, and I mentioned before, you mentioned Andujar. He hurts his shoulder, and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, the Yankees really like this player. We'll just see him later. Whenever that timetable is that he's going to show back up, and you just project that they're going to show back up in the same position that they were in. But what you have to realize is that the Yankees, from this point forward, have to find solutions to help them win games. And sometimes that puts you on the outside of the circle. And that's not good. That's not what we're rooting for.
I hate it.
I hope that this is the beginning to a massive comeback for this guy. But you just never know in this sport. And you obviously see it with Alex Reyes with the super says, sour ass win. Man, I'm not even happy. I don't think any of us feel good about how this went down.
No.
Jonathan with the super. Thank you, Jonathan, with the 2 to help support this channel, says, I feel like we're going to trade for a third baseman now. And I think that's a conversation we can have briefly here before we talk about, obviously, what good happened today.
Yeah, there was a lot of good. So,
There was a lot of good.
yeah.
And if you think about this, you were mentioning Lombard Jr. He still has to perform at the higher levels of the minor
Absolutely.
leagues. I think that's a prerequisite before we make any emergency call-ups. I think you agree with that. Most people probably agree with it. But Jonathan's saying that's maybe something he's not looking at least right now. He's likely looking at the trade market. And nothing will put you on the trade market and be more aggressive in that way when you see a massive injury to a starter. Cabrera was a starter for this team. Whether you loved him or not on this roster, he was a starter. And anytime you see a starter for a team that thinks they're going somewhere, that'll put you on the pot really quick.
Yeah, man, this whole thing just sucks. I hate it for him. And, part of me, I like that we're going to be seeing more opportunities for a Peraza and a B-Boss, and potentially George Lombard Jr. gets called up, but you never want it to be at the expense of somebody's. I mean, forget these guys being athletes and players and entertainment, and just think about him as a person and what he's going to be going through. I mean, this is grueling rehab. These are injuries that don't happen in baseball. They just don't happen very often. So when they do happen, Gary, that's why the entire stadium was like, what is going on? When do you see? I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw an ambulance have to go and get a player. I don't remember the last time I saw that. That was awful. It was awful.
Yeah, and it almost felt like the Yankees had gone a while. Like, you saw that dive out in right field from Aaron Judge, and you're thinking, oh, came up a little lame. It's been a while since the Yankees really saw, like, when we saw someone go down off of our position players out in the field, we haven't seen that at least in a bit. So to see that happen, I mean, it was honestly just a huge shock. That's how I would describe it.
Chingmin
Brian
Wong
with the super
is the last one.
Honestly,
I could think of.
Yeah, and Brian with the super, thank you, Brian, for supporting us with the 10, says rather have Cabrera out there with a torn ankle than DJ. Obviously, Brian's not very happy that this is what's going to happen on the backside of this play, because a lot's just happened, guys. It's not just a broken ankle or whatever the diagnosis is going to be. It's also who replaces him. Now, who's the backup? Who stays on the roster who is otherwise going to be sent down to the minor leagues? This changes service time. It changes the trajectory for young players, maybe a Lombard Jr., which Jake's alluded to. There's a lot that's just happened, and it puts so much pressure on an organization, regardless of which starter goes down. There's such an impact across the whole organization. So it's interesting to see a player that a lot of us were we were critical of how he was playing in the short term, and then to see what happens when he no longer exists on the roster, how much bad happens, because now you have so many people. Brian is one of those guys who's sitting there thinking, DJ LeMahieu's been having cortisone shots during his rehab assignments. How much should I really trust this player? I think it's perfectly valid to not trust his ability to stay out in the field, which tells me, Jake, the Yankees need a solution very quickly at third base, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. These guys are going to have to show us.
They will. And, I like that Brian's upset, because it is a reminder that there are people that like this player. And again, if you are a homegrown Yankee and you made it to the show and you became a starter, like, Cabrera's ceiling was not high. So when we're critical, I think we're justified, but we also are aware that Cabrera's not some superstar, okay? He wasn't a top prospect. He was a really hardworking guy that worked his tail off to get to that point. He had a really nice come up. He struggled, when he was getting adjusted and teams were figuring out how to pitch against him. But he's kind of gone over that hump, and he's just worked his way into becoming a solid player. And it sucks. It does suck. And I know there are people that are saying it's way too early to talk about Lombard Jr. and all of that. I don't think it is. I don't think it's way too early to talk about him. If you want to say it's way too early to call him up, that's fine. I'm not saying to call him up right now. I might be the aggressive one, but I still need to see what he can do in Double-A. I'm not calling him up.
You're certainly aggressive, Jake, but you're also leaving out the possibility that if he doesn't perform at the level that he's currently been called up at, he's not an option. But if he's setting it off in the minor leagues, and you say, well, due to emergency, we don't have a guy that we really trust at third base every day.
Exactly.
Well, perhaps a guy, Jake, you've been texting me updates about where he's ranking. He's trending upwards. And
now
we know what the talent is.
MLB.com put him up.
Right. So there are a lot of people that are placing a ton of stock in George Lombard Jr. Is it ideal? Is it the perfect time to call him up? Perhaps not. But sometimes there's, you're put in a situation that you didn't expect to be in. So Orlando with the super, and then we're going to get to the positive stuff here. He says, I think this is somewhat positive in moving the conversation along. He says, what do you guys think it will take to pry Donovan from the Cardinals? If it takes a package of Spencer Jones, do we pull the trigger? Now, one thing I'm going to bring up before I kick this back to you, Jake, because I'm interested to see what you say. I have to remind people that the St. Louis Cardinals are actually playing some decent baseball right now.
I know.
And that matters on the trade market. When you're going to go try and get a player, you're not just trying to find talent, that you also are comfortable getting rid of some assets to go get that guy. You need a match, but you also need a team that says, yeah, we're not going for it, clearly. Well, the Cardinals are winning baseball games. That does not help the Yankees go get any player from their roster, whether it's Arenado, whether it's Donovan, whether it's anybody.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. Donovan would be a great fit, but to your point, and this is what we were talking about and why I said Freddie Peralta makes sense, because the Brewers aren't as good as maybe we were expecting them to be. Right now they're below 500. If this continues, they could trade him. that's the thing. The Cardinals are actually playing some inspiring baseball. It's the same reason why, regardless of how things work out with Kyle Tucker, the Cubs aren't trading him if they continue to win with him. It's that simple, right? So I think that's kind of the thing. And, we can get into, like Dylan Cease, for instance. Like, why would the Padres trade Dylan Cease when the Padres are one of the best teams in the league? That's an offseason move. If you want to make that for money purposes or whatever, you make that before the season or after the season. You don't make it during the season when you're the San Diego Padres, who are as good as any team in baseball. And so that is my thing. And I like that you said that. And I like that Orlando brought this up. And this is why we love our fan base so much, our viewership. I mean, what do you guys think it'll take to pry Donovan from the Cards? I think it's a very valid question. Let's pretend Donovan is available. I don't think it would take Spencer Jones. I think it would take Arias. I think it would probably take LaGrange and another pitcher. And I think that would be enough. I don't think you have to give up top prospects for Donovan. But then again, if you want the player, who knows? You might have to. I don't think they would have to give up top. Like, I think they could give up some decent prospects in the top 10, but I don't think that they would have to give up, like, Spencer Jones or George Lombard Jr. to get.
Okay, so it's going to hurt, but I guess technically speaking, because of the injury, that your back's against the wall. This isn't the worst thing in the world for our offense. You have to remember where the Yankees as a group rank in terms of how they're scoring, how they're fielding, and offensively and defensively, this team right now, I know it maybe doesn't look this way. Offensively, probably does. We're playing great baseball. We just are. Our record doesn't say that, but we're winning a lot of games given some of our injuries to our rotation, given what the back end of our rotation even looks like. We're winning a lot of baseball games. So I guess to sort of answer the question, if the Cardinals were like, no, it's going to take Spencer Jones. Like, you're not going to send us Arias. We're not excited about that player. I guess the question is how aggressive are the Yankees going to be? If it did take a Spencer Jones, would you? Because of what's just happened today. I think given the logjam in the outfield and how many players we have out there, I'd probably be more aggressive than maybe most to go get a player I know I need. And obviously Donovan would be a huge upgrade. Have no idea if he'll be available. I think it's interesting in general to know what names are out there, but we're not going to know who's available because I do see in the chat, and I agree with this, by the way, it's going to be Peraza and DJ LeMahieu.
100%.
That's who's going to be at third base every single day. They're going to be flopping.
Well,
it could be Peraza.
As long as DJ stays healthy.
Of course. Yeah. And then you see Jazz, and then we're going to start saying, okay, well, what are they going to do with B-Boss? Then that conversation starts. But those are going to be the guys you see. I don't have any remix to that. So I want to get to this game because obviously there's some players today, and Trent Grisham being one of them. They deserve to be talked about.
Absolutely.
Trent Grisham, as of now, is putting himself in position. This is a career season. And I believe this is the final year of his deal. Trent Grisham is going to get paid this offseason. This is a shocking development that I feel comfortable saying that hardly anybody, and mind you, this is a podcast about the details. That's what we do here. We like to talk about the bottom of the roster. We'll talk about Aaron Judge and all the guys at the top. But to see guys like Trent Grisham, and Jake, last year I was saying this guy in Grisham, my mom maybe doesn't like him, right? And my grandma didn't like him when they were playing for the Padres.
You went to bat for him. You did.
I went to bat for him, and here's why. All I was saying, I didn't see this, so I'm not going to act like I'm some wizard. No, I said his role is to play quality defense, high effort out there, hit your cutoffs, take good routes, make strong throws. He's going to pop some homers every now and again, maybe change a game, maybe, right? Ibanez. That's what I was looking at. And he was doing that last year. Solid defense. Every once in a blue moon, he'd hit a bomb. We show up into 2025. Aaron Boone says, no, I have more faith in this player than you think I do. I think if he plays every day, he can do something for this team. And not a lot of people thought that. So we have to give Aaron Boone some credit when it's due. We're going to criticize him, but when he puts a player out there, and he's giving him big innings. He plays almost every day for this team. He's playing like a star. Is he a star? Perhaps not. Of course not. But he's giving us that type of production, and it's a tall task because the Yankees right now, at least in my estimation, have 4 outfielders who should be playing. And he has to figure out every single day which one of these guys is going to sit down, and hardly any of us are happy with whoever sits down. Jason Dominguez didn't play today, and a lot of us were upset. But you know who was out there? Trent Grisham, and he hit 2 bombs. He was great.
3 for 6. 6 at-bats, Gary. What a wild... Like, now that we've kind of talked about the solemn nature of this game, let's kind of celebrate what this game was because, you know, they got off to kind of a rocky start. And I'm going to be honest with you. Hancock, this is why box score watchers are going to be like, he was terrible the whole game. He was awful. But really, he had 1 bad inning. This is a guy that ran roughshod of this lineup, aside from Grisham, for 4 innings. And then they said, oh, yeah, that last time through the order, he was really, they were on him. And it was noticeable. So, I mean, I thought Grisham's at-bats looked awesome. I loved the way he served it to the opposite field. Actually, that was my most... See, the home runs are fun, right? But when I see him doing stuff like that, I'm like, this is sustainable, Gary. This is. I don't think what he's doing isn't sustainable. He's hitting 288. He has a 373 on base. His at-bats are good. He's changed his... Have you noticed he changed his batting stance?
I did notice a slight tweak in the batting stance, but I guess what is noticeable is the at-bats. Obviously, the outcome, and when you see the ball sailing over the wall, it's the best thing that can happen in the sport, and that's great.
Of course, yeah.
But you also see, and this is another thing that Boone's alluded to, is the process seems like it makes sense. Think about this Yankees roster. There are about a list of 5 players in our offense. And mind you, our offense is scoring runs with the best of them. We scored 39 runs our last 4 games. Ridiculous. But there are a lot of guys, and Jazz he's injured right now. Jazz is another one of those players you're like, I don't love his process every day. Oh, he looks great tonight, and maybe that projects as a 30-30 season. But then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, we're having conversation about what is this guy's approach. Grisham's approach so far this year has been solid. Every single at-bat he takes, he could strike out, and the process still looked sound. So that's what I'm after. And as far as sustainability, I know you mentioned that you think it is sustainable. I think his at-bats are sustainable. The results may not be. But I mentioned this before. I don't care what he looks like in August of this year. If Trent Grisham looks like this version of himself, maybe just through the trade deadline, do you know how much value there is in having this type of production when you didn't see it coming at all for a Yankees roster after losing a player as great as Juan Soto? There's a ton of value in it. So it brings the Yankees where they need to go. And I'm extraordinarily proud of this player. I didn't see this happening at all.
I am too.
So I'm not going to sit here and act like I had a clue that this could happen. No. I didn't even think it could happen, let alone. And by the way, I thought this Yankees offense really kick-started, and this rarely happens, but Clark Schmidt's start today. Clark Schmidt went 6 innings. He gave up 3 runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. You look at that line, you think, oh, he must have been great. He must have been hitting the corners. He was not. If you watch this start, he was laboring. His location was not great all day. It really wasn't. But when you saw that 5-run 6th inning, it changed the entire complexion of how Clark was going after hitters, and it really settled him in. So I was happy to see the offense pick him up.
I agree with that. I'm glad you brought that up. I feel like that's happened quite a few times with some of the starts. I think we saw that with Rodon earlier in the season.
Yes.
I think that is a real thing. I understand momentum carries more in, say, basketball, football for some people, but there's momentum in baseball. I mean, without a doubt. And you don't have to be playing baseball when it's cold out to know that there's momentum in baseball. This is a May 12th game, and this was a neck-and-neck game, and then that inning happens, and you're like, oh, my God, okay, they didn't have an issue with the batter's eye.
That was a conversation on the broadcast, by the way. They did talk about it.
Do you know how happy I was that they talked about that? I brought that up to you because a friend of mine who covers the Mariners brought this to my attention. He was the opposite of biased. He's not a very biased person. He flat out told me, he's like, because I was like, oh yeah, the Mariners, they got great pitching. And he's like, they really don't. He's like, I'm not overly high on our pitching. I think what it is if you look at their home splits as opposed to their road splits, he's like, I think it's the batter's eye. Because everyone says, like, it's hard to hit in Seattle, just the way it is. What I would have to ask you, because it came out yesterday in the comment section, someone that Edgar Martinez said this. How do you not fix this over the course of, is this like, oh, you know what, we're okay because our pitching is dominant, but we're going to sacrifice our hitting? I don't know why you wouldn't fix it.
Well, they did show the view, the hitter's view of what it looks like looking back there. The batter's eye looks fine. What seems to be the problem, and I have no idea if this is the problem, is the reflection of the sun off of the bleachers above the batter's eye. That could be a huge distraction. And I'm not sure if that is what's causing this, but it seemed like the Yankees saw the ball fine. And speaking of seeing the ball fine, and Brian, by the way, I'm going to get back. Everybody. I'm going to get back to this. I don't want to get to the super chat right away because I feel like I would be robbing Anthony Volpe of some light here because I think he deserves a day in the sun. I want to bring up what Anthony Volpe's doing because I want to remind people I don't like to criticize a player in what he's done over an extended period of time, have him go 2 for 3 with 2 bombs, and then use that opportunity to talk about him on the podcast as if players who struggle long-term don't have good days. I mentioned I need to see Anthony Volpe over some period of time giving us quality at-bats. That day has come, and it still needs to continue. He's not off the hook, but I'm going to talk about it. He's hitting over 320 his last 15 games. That matters. Yes. He's made some defensive miscues. We've brought them up before. But
quietest home run ever.
Quietest home run ever. But when you give up, when you're hitting for power, his on base is over 400. Over 400 his last 15 games. He's getting on base. We know what his speed is, and we know what the analytics say about his base running. His ability to get around the bases is second to none. He has to hit to be worth having for the Yankees at shortstop. He's hitting right now, and it's making a difference. So I'm happy to see what he's doing. I want to see if it continues, but I wanted to make sure we talked about it on this show.
Yeah, and I also want to bring up our guy Cody Bellinger, who's hitting a lot better as of late. Another multi-hit game, keeps the hitting streak going. I think it's at 7 or 8 games now, and he's now hitting 230. And I'm not going to say, whoa, 230, but understand where we're coming from. Like, I watched when Verdugo, who, by the way, had a walk-off hit today for the Braves.
No, he did not.
He did. They brought it up on the broadcast. They were like,
did they have like a ticker tape parade?
They just mentioned it. They're like, Alex Verdugo. You know when they go to like the studio, they literally showed it in the studio, like that break.
Good for him. He's not on our roster.
Yeah,
we're rooting for the guy to
I'm not
land on
rooting
his
against
feet.
him. I'm just saying, because of Verdugo, like that's why I'm like, okay, this is good because we saw the opposite. Bellinger is quite honestly having an opposite season to Verdugo. Right around this time, Verdugo was kind of descending a little bit, right? Like he still
descending. He was underneath the Earth's crust. He was that dude.
Not in May.
When did he fall off the official cliff?
I think it was June. I mean, I could look it up, but I think it was June. My point being, he got off to a good start to the point where you and I were talking about him. Like, you know, Gary, I would actually bring this player back. This version, I kept saying that though. This version of Alex Verdugo hitting 270, you know, the contact, I would bring him back. And you're like, I don't know, because Jason Dominguez next year, like you're going to be log jammed, but I understand your point. And then literally after I said that, he just fell off a cliff. Whereas Bellinger fell off a cliff to start. Like literally the start of his season, it was like they literally rug pulled him. And that was his season.
He was electric in spring training, and then all of a sudden he shows up and he was ice cold.
Yeah,
we're like, what is going on? I think he had one strong series. It was with Jazz.
Was it the shoulder or was it a back? I think
it was a back injury. Yeah, Cody
off.
Bellinger was dealing with a lower back injury, and they did talk about it on the broadcast. He said he was going to play through it. We talked about the cold weather. We saw that in Detroit. It was snowing, And that does, for those of you who have back injuries, you know what really doesn't help that? Playing sports in 40-degree weather.
No.
So, not saying that the back injury is why we saw that production, but it could have been a kickstart to poor production. And as of now, and you mentioned Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger is another one of those outfielders that I said it's part of this logjam that we've got going. No Dominguez today, but one of our options was Cody Bellinger, who's hitting .304 his last 15 games. His on base, his last 7 games, is .424. So it's difficult to find who should be playing. Is it Grisham? Is it Bellinger? Right? Is it Dominguez? Obviously, Aaron Judge plays every day. He should. Do I give him a day and let him DH and put Ben Rice on the bench? There's so many moving pieces with this roster, but I guess what really matters here is when you look up at the overall rankings for the Yankees and you see, okay, the Yankees have scored 10 plus in 4 of their last 6 contests. They're scoring. It's not a problem. So these are good problems to have. We've got more than just 2 or 3 guys giving us production. So I'm happy to see that Cody Bellinger is giving production because everyone says I'm a huge homer. I went to high school with this kid, that I'm just rooting for him just because. I'm glad he's putting some production behind it I can talk about.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that because I was really hyped about the move, and I know he's capable of more. And, you know, I love what I'm seeing from him. Goldschmidt had another... He is just a machine. And you know when Goldschmidt steps up the most? When guys are on base. It's like he is the ultimate... You said it the other day. Boone said it. He's the ultimate situation hitter. He's the... Honestly, bases loaded... World Series, I'd have him up there over anybody on the roster. Now, him or Juan Soto, now you're starting to be like that's tough. But Goldschmidt on this roster is the best situational hitter, and it's not even close. He's insane.
Yeah, because you sure you're not ready for people to clip that and be like, oh, he thinks that Goldschmidt's a better player than Juan Soto. No, the concept of situational hitting is... There's something being asked of me in the moment, and it might not be some sexy outcome, like a 3-run double. It might not be that. I can just chop a ball, and infield's playing back, I can hit a ground ball. I can do that for this team. You saw it today. Ground ball into right field, 1 out. What's Paul Goldschmidt thinking? I've got to bust it to third base. He makes it to third. Turns into a run. We weren't doing that last year. Anthony Rizzo had a damn trailer on his back. He was not going to third base last year. And I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but to have guys on your roster who are thinking about the next play and how can I help this team win in ways other than putting balls in the seats, it's refreshing. It's different. It's unique. And most importantly, I think this is the conclusion here. It creates an offense that's not one-dimensional when we get into October. And I know it's hard to say that this offense is one-dimensional when we just want to pen it, but there were about 14 seasons before that where I watched Yankees baseball where most hitters looked like a Luke Voit, Gary Sanchez. Most hitters. It was a right-handed power bat looking to power a ball into the short porch, and they did it during the regular season when it was hot out, and then it got cold, and they had no other way to offer production or any type of value. Paul Goldschmidt is the literal opposite of that entire mentality. It's so fun to watch.
I love watching him play. And a guy that has almost a 500 slugging percentage when he doesn't hit home runs is insane. I don't think people get how insane that is. Like Ben Rice, right? He's hitting 256.
Yeah.
He's got a 360 on base percentage, but he has a 558 slugging because he has like 9 or 10 home runs. Like, home runs make your slugging percentage go crazy. But Paul Goldschmidt is keeping it up there around 500 without, the long ball because he's generating points via the doubles and the triples that he's getting. And it's crazy to watch. And then another thing, I think we're watching Austin Wells. We talked about it. He's starting to... This is the thing, Gary. We're starting to see this team really emerge. I think that's really what we're watching. We're watching these hitters, and is it a little bit of an issue how streaky they are because they can get shut down for 4 innings and then they kind of need like a little bit of momentum to get going, and then it's like they pile on the crooked number in that 1 inning? Some people have an issue with that, but I would say, look, the best teams put crooked numbers on the board. That's just the reality of it. They have those big innings.
So are you somewhat worried about the volatility of the offense? Because mind you, the offense, actually. I'm not either, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
If you look at the rankings of the Yankees offense, and I know this seems super like simple, are you thrilled about the output of all of the hitters in this roster? Because I personally wasn't. I feel like there's so much potential for certain players on this roster that gave us really nothing offensively for the past 3 weeks. Yeah. Cody Bellinger 3 weeks ago was an automatic out. I'm just going to put it the way it is. He was an out, right?
And his swing Chisholm was not the same.
No. Jazz Chisholm, before his injury, was an automatic. After the opening series, there was a stretch of 2.5, 3 weeks where he hit 100. 100 he hit. Okay? So if I look at, am I in love? Has Peraza been setting it off? No. Right? Has Bebos been setting it off? No, he's hitting a $158. He's like this platoon contact guy, right? Cabrera, obviously, Cabrera was hitting 240, right? Without pop. So it's not like our 6 through 9 were giving us unrealistic output that now we look at the standings and say, oh, okay, maybe this is going to come back down to earth offensively. I think the Yankees actually have about 3 or 4 names that were objectively atrocious 2 weeks ago. And then we sit here today and they're trending upwards. So when you look at the standings, you see us in first place by however many games, it's like 2.5, 3 games. The Yankees could be looking up in a week and a half from now, seeing a 5 or 6 game lead because of what others can do offensively for this team that maybe hasn't happened in the last month. So I'm excited about the prospect of an Anthony Volpe, right? Of a guy like Ben Rice getting back on the horse and he's starting to hit again. So the Yankees have a lot to be excited about. I know it's a huge bummer at third base, and I want to get to this super chat now, finally, with Brian. Thank you for the 10 in supporting the channel.
Thank you,
says,
Brian.
Need to get creative here. Find a third baseman who is in the way of a prospect. The Brewers and Reds each have 2 top prospects knocking on the door to make the show. Now, I like this idea, Jake, that we're getting a little bit more forward thinking as to why a team would deal with us. Not just, I want the player, here's what it takes to get him, but why is that team sending a player here? And if there's a logical reason as to why, now Brian Cashman can probably pick up a phone and maybe we make a deal.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And when you can get forward thinking and this is my criticism about them. If they got out in front of it and now Ben Rice can play third, it allows you to get the best 9 hitters in your lineup more likelier than not, right? Because we're talking about it today. Jason Dominguez didn't play. He's one of the best 9 hitters. He's one of the best 5 hitters when he's on, right? So Bellinger, when he's not in the lineup, he is one of the best 9 hitters. But it's not. Baseball isn't a sport where you can just have 9 designated hitters. You don't just set a lineup with your favorite hitters, the best hitters on your team. You have to find a way to make it work because these guys have to play in the field. That's where it becomes a bit of a puzzle, right? You have to fill, the void. And so I look at LeMahieu, and I'm like, if he can do what he was doing in the minors, say he does translate, he's going to play every day regardless of how we feel, right? Boone loves him. So if he can play good baseball, you have all these guys trending in the right direction. Bellinger's starting to trend in the right direction. The at-bats look way different. You've said he was an automatic out, and now he's a competitive out. Like if he's out, it's a competitive at-bat, or he crushes one, right? Then you have Austin Wells working counts again, looking comfortable, had a 3-run shot today. Most impressive at-bat to me was the sac fly. I love that at-bat. That shows that Austin Wells can help. Just because you get out, if it's a productive out, no one cares. I don't care. I'll take a productive out any day. When I need a sac fly, give me that all day. He had 4 ribbies today. Then you talk about Anthony Volpe, the home run. You know why the home run was so big, Gary? That home run ensured Boone. He didn't, and I'm not saying that Devin Williams couldn't have got the job done, but he didn't have to see Devin Williams in a save situation where now he's pitching more than 1 inning, right? And now he can save Devin Williams for tomorrow. He can save Luke Weaver for tomorrow if they need him or the next day. So that allowed them to do that because that 2-run shot now makes it a 5-run game or 4-run game at the time. So I love seeing that. And my point is, the way these guys are starting to trend, you have Judge hitting the crap out of the ball. His pull hit today was awesome. That was great piece of hitting by Judge. And then, the point being, Grisham, everybody's starting to kind of get going. And I have a theory here where I feel like Peraza, and he had a really nice double today, and I've been following.
It was a laser.
It was a laser, and I've been following, and every time, and I might be missing a game or two, but every time I look at Savant, and I always look at Savant, I look at the exit velocity. It lets me know, are guys really making good contact, right? Because when you're getting those, 110 off the bat, and it's just an atom ball, and you hit him right at the guy, it's frustrating, but it is a sign of things to come. We talked about that with Wells last year. Why I said
paper.
This is fluky, right? Peraza, every single game he plays, has a barreled ball. Sometimes there's two. And what I mean by that is 95 miles an hour or more, and most of the time it's triple digits, Gary. He's got a good cut. He really does. I like his swing. He's violent. I think if he just hones it in a little bit more, he could be a good hitter. And you know what? I think a lot of the pressing that we've seen from him is because he knows he has to make the most out of every opportunity because he's not a starter. But I think if they let him start at third, you watch this guy play with a completely different level of confidence. You watch this guy do what some of the other guys are doing. How we talked about Ben Rice hitting 3 home runs, and now he's changed his approach entirely. He can be the player he was in AAA, and that is what the Yankees need him to be. So I am excited. I mean, it's a frustrating day at the end of the day, but I don't want to just erase what was a really impressive win on the road against a team that has good pitching and against a team that simply just is annoying at the end of the day for the Yankees. They give the Yankees problems historically. The Mariners do.
Yeah, there's a couple teams like that. And Apex with the Super says, do you guys trust Williams against the Mets at Yankee Stadium? Honestly, I do like the point that Jake brings up, which is that we didn't really have to see what Devin Williams looks like under the gun today. And I feel that the Yankees, the longer we punt this down the road, the more beneficial it is to this team. He needs to find something. It's a mechanic. It's not talent. So you guys can say what you will about Devin Williams' talent, his changeup, his fastball command, that cutter, if you love it or not. He has to find what made him him in Milwaukee and translate that into pinstripes. Well, pitching low leverage allows him more time to figure this out. But the interesting part about this question, and it's a great question from Apex, is the timeline. The Mets are right around the corner. We are just about to play them. Would you be comfortable with Devin Williams with the game on the line against the New York Mets? No. I would say no. That would be my answer. I have no
reason to feel comfortable.
Not yet. I mean? Right.
You can give me a reason down the stretch, but this is not enough time. I've seen a good outing, and I thought today was kind of – I didn't think he looked great today,
Well, is it fair to say we're going to have to see him in a situation where we're nervous for him, right? A situation that's tense.
I mean, he did do that, but that was the last thing he just did.
Yeah, but I guess my point is, when we're playing the Mets, it's going to feel like in the moment, honestly, rivalry games. I know it's the Mets, but we lost Soto. The storyline's there. Everyone's going to be watching these games. And if Devin Williams shows up and it's 2-1 Yankees in the 8th and we put him out on the field, it's a big situation. There's pressure there. There just is. People can ignore that, but you're being put on the field to deliver in that moment. Everyone's going to be watching, as I've said. Do you trust him in that situation? To some degree, we're going to have to put him in there again at some point in the season in a game we really want to win with him on the mound, and he's going to have to come through. Then after that, you can start to build trust, but that's the hard part about closers, guys. Very difficult. And I know he's not technically our closer. He lost that job. But when you put somebody in key situations, they blow it for a bit, you take them out of that role. The only way to find out if they could ever do it again is by putting them back in there again. Very tall task, hard job for Aaron Boone, because everyone's going to blame Boone if he puts him in that situation and he fails.
That is true. And I don't feel like there's a wrong answer until he gets going. You know what I mean? I don't feel like there's a wrong time to bring him in. You got to use him. They are paying him. So, and they traded assets to get him. So you can't just be like, I'm never using him. That's not how that works. Also, the bullpen isn't good enough to be like, yeah, I'm never using Devin Williams. Like, you can't do that.
They bought a Ferrari, skid the tires in the driveway. They're like, I'm never taking that car out again. It's like,
essentially
to
what
some
it is.
degree, you got to learn to drive stick and figure this thing out. Devin Williams has to be used, guys. You can't just trade away a starting pitcher, right? A depth
Unless
piece.
you're trading Devin Williams away tomorrow to get some big-time play.
Unless you're trading Devin Williams. You're correct.
You can't just be like, yeah, he's not going to play. Like, it's just... But Jordan, thank you for the 5. Belly struggles. Never bothered me at all. He knows how to put the bat to ball, change his approach. His RBIs were always clutch during his struggle. Yeah, I mean, I give him a lot of credit because it is hard, and I don't care how early it was in the season, Gary. It is hard when nothing is going your way. And I don't want to throw shade at Jazz. I like Jazz. I do. But look at the difference between Jazz struggling and Bellinger struggling. At one point, Bellinger had worse statistical output than Jazz. Jazz had home runs, at least. Like, Bellinger was not doing anything, right? But Bellinger never made it like he wasn't freaking out at the umpire. He just stayed calm, cool, collected, made some huge plays in the field, controlled what he could control. When you're in a slump, you got to find other ways to try and get out of it, right? And making defensive plays, big-time defensive plays, getting your confidence back right. I think he had the right approach. Now, this is a veteran player, so, I mean, he should. But, yeah, I give Bellinger a lot of credit. And I saw in the comments section, Gary, I just want to address this real quick.
Yeah.
Ben Rice went 1 for 6 today, right? Mm-hmm. I saw in the comment section someone said Ben Rice is, basically coming back down to earth. I'm going to call BS on that. He had 5 out of the 6 at-bats today were barrels, okay? He's crushing the baseball, crushing it. I don't worry about Ben Rice at all. I just don't. That double that he ripped down the right field line, when you watch at-bats like that, I don't know how you could have any worry about Ben Rice.
No, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and just address that right off the rip. Mm-hmm. Against right-handed pitching, I've mentioned the long-term data against lefties. I've liked some of the recent at-bats he's taken against lefties, but offensively against right-handed pitching, he's been dominant. He's a 300 hitter. That's what he is. So people can think, oh, he's falling off. In large part, that's because there's a probably more people than you'd be comfortable to hear believe when a player's hitting, you look up at the scoreboard and you see, oh, he's hitting 310, right? This is his first breakout season. And then you look up and he's hitting 261, 259. They sort of just freak out and tense up and think, oh, he just must stink. But I've mentioned before, is there power, is there pop behind that 260, right? What do the at-bats look like? To some degree, you have to watch the game and determine whether or not a player's falling down to earth or not. If you watch Ben Rice hit every day, and I watch every single at-bat, every take he has, every swing, every foul ball, every homer, I've seen it all. And if you watch this team, you'd come away with the same takeaway, which is that Ben Rice is not slipping to anything. No. He clearly has things in his game he needs to work on, and that is contact against left-handed pitching. I'm assuming he will work on that, and it shouldn't be a long-term problem. But Ben Rice is here to stay, at least in my estimation, until he shows me otherwise.
In 37 games, Gary, he's 10th in OPS in the league. That's, 37 games. That's not like a nice week. He's been really good, really good. I feel like we're kind of taking for granted 918 OPS out of a kid that most people wanted packaged for Devin Williams. Did you see how many people were like, oh, we didn't trade Ben Rice? I would have rather kept... They wanted to keep the second baseman over
in theory.
Rice.
Okay, so this is one thing I will say about that. In their defense, Ben Rice was not even close to this version of himself. We had no idea. We don't know what players are going to turn. That's the thing about prospects. Ben Rice could look like he did last August. Ben Rice was an out. He was bad. He was not good at all. The at-bats were bad. The process didn't work. The results, obviously, in the end, didn't work. And you didn't look over at first base and say, oh, we have a clear solution. Rizzo's over there. Put Ben Rice there. It's a clear solution. It wasn't. Not at the time it wasn't. So in Apex with the super, thank you Apex with the 2, says also imagine it's Devin Williams pitching. He's still on this Devin Williams thing. Understandably so. We're going to be in that situation. Brace yourself, guys. Devin Williams is going to be in a big game against the Mets. He is. And maybe he's facing Pete Alonso. That's certainly possible. And you know what happened last year? It's not last year, but we've also seen players where, like Garrett Cole and Rafael Devers, where the results tend to repeat themselves. So I hope not. And then Will with the super. Thank you, Will, for the 2 and contributing to the show. We really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
He says, do we sell high on Grisham now for an arm? I think Brian Cashman should be sent to Guantanamo Bay if he traded him right now. And I'm not saying this from a standpoint that he couldn't get value. He certainly could. But could you imagine the vibe in the clubhouse if you had a player playing this way and you just trade them? A starting center fielder for your team. You're like, yeah, you go beat Rock. We needed an arm given our injuries. Will, I love the thinking because you're trying to get better on this roster. I want to do the same thing. I promise you the way to do it is not trading a player who's having his Matt Carpenter moment with this team.
No, and it's funny because I understand the sentiment. I do. If you're not bringing this player back after the season, why not sell high on him? Because he has this ridiculous, right? He's playing out of his mind.
Right.
At the same time, you're not the Pirates. You're not the Marlins. You're the Yankees. You're trying to win a World Series.
I'm glad you brought that up. We're a win now team.
You know what I mean? So it's like maybe if Judge wasn't 33 and I wasn't desperately trying to win before Judge retires, like I'd consider something like this if I was kind of a mid team. But I mean, first place AL. Imagine that. You wake up. Yankees have traded Trent Grisham away for and he says an arm. What is an arm? Like if I'm getting Freddie Peralta, I still am a little upset about trading Grisham, but I'm getting a guy with control. He's one of the best pitchers that you could probably get on the market. Okay. But
I get the concept, but
if
you
I'm
also have to
like
remember
a closer. Like, do you know how mad I would be if it
no,
was
but didn't we technically make this mistake by trading Nestor Cortez? We had this perception we have a surplus in our rotation. Everyone said we got Garrett Cole, we got Fried, we've got Heel, we've got Clark, we've got all these guys. We've got guys out our system, Ben Hess, and then we trade away Nestor Cortez. Everyone said we don't need him. What do we need him for? And you get this closer. The closer was
Hess.
Cheeks.
He
was a lemon. He's not even close. That's what people told me. They were like, no, we've got guys in our system. We don't need Nestor Cortez. And I understand the idea. But you traded away that player, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, why would Devin Williams close games when I have Luke Weaver? And suddenly it became obvious, oh, the Yankees probably shouldn't have went and sent a starting pitcher who was going to give him 150 innings for a dude that was going to create this issue in the back end of our bullpen. So I'm not saying I disagreed with the trade at the time. I didn't. But I think what Will's getting at here is we've got a position of surplus, and that is true. Jason Dominguez would start playing every day if we traded Grisham. But all of a sudden, you see a Cody Bellinger go down for 2 or 3 weeks, and now you're looking around the roster saying, who's playing left? And then you look up, and it's going to be, remember those days where we had, I mean, literally, I hate to bring him up, but Cabrera was playing left field for this team, and we didn't trust any other prospect to play left? That's what you would see. You would start seeing Peraza standing in left field. I think it is playing with fire. I don't touch it if I'm the Yankees.
No, there's one player that they have in the minors that is absolutely raking. And if you have a surplus and say you have to trade somebody, you're a win now team. You can't trade Grisham, but you could trade Everson Pereira. And I mean, we've talked about this, you know, the reality is this, Gary. Everson Pereira, Spencer Jones, potentially Kyle Tucker next year, Aaron Judge, Jason Dominguez, Cody Bellinger. If you want to bring back Trent Grisham, that is still in play. That's a lot of bodies. A lot.
It's a lot.
So, unfortunately, You might love Pereira, and I like Pereira a lot. I didn't like how he barely got any opportunity with the Yankees, but I like him a lot. He's still a young player. He's 24, and he has a 951 OPS in the minors right now in AAA.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's definitely good.
He's tearing the cover off the ball. You know,
I'd love some vets. I will admit, I would love some proven players. I think you've mentioned Donovan. I'm probably looking at this roster right now currently. DJ LeMahieu, right? Peraza. You've mentioned the lane that's now open. I'm using them as Band-Aids, platoon, ride with the hot bat, see who gives you a couple weeks. The defense is going to be mediocre from pretty much all of them. It's going to be, and when I say mediocre, that's not a bad thing. It means middle of the road. And if you get to the deadline, you say, well, our lead isn't as comfortable as I thought it would be. Well, then maybe a Donovan or whoever else can become more realistic.
I'm here to tell you, Heel is not on a trading block right now. They are praying for him to come back ASAP.
Wait a minute. So how would he even be rumored to be on the trade block? We could have technically, the Houston Astros were asking for him for Kyle Tucker. So you mean to tell me that the Yankees are like, no, we won't do it for Kyle Tucker, but we'll do it for this other rando, whoever that player was. There's literally no player, unless the Yankees were trading for like Jose Ramirez, it would make no sense at all that this player was untouchable for Kyle Tucker. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, we'll send him for this arm.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but we appreciate the comment, Christopher. And then this one I wanted to bring up because this is what we've been saying. You don't sweat future roster moves because the universe will make some of these. It's true. It's true. The universe makes decisions. I mean, just think about this. Tom Brady was not a starter. He probably never starts if Drew Bledsoe doesn't go down. Probably never hear of Tom Brady.
Just
ever.
wrecks his shoulder, and they're like, hey, Tom. Yeah. You ready? And he's like, yeah, I'm ready to be the GOAT.
Like, it's just the way, like, sports is weird, man. It's, you know, you don't quite get like UDFAs or like, you know, it's in your 9-to-5 office job. Like a UDFA doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, oh, he's taken over no, but like it's broadcasted in sports and it happens, and kind of that, you know, unsung hero, if you will. Like, was just talking the other day with my father about Linsanity. Like, you never know. Sports is weird, man. Don't try to understand it.
Linsanity was the most zebra gum situation of sports. It was ridiculous. I don't want to drag this into Linsanity. You weren't
living in New York when that happened.
It was insane. There were so many people mad about it. They were pissed, but dude, rightfully so.
It was hilarious. And then he went to the Lakers like way later on. There were Knicks fans at my school, and I think it was middle school or high school, whatever. There were Knicks fans at my school telling me he's better than Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Well, at one point he was waving Kobe off and hitting game winners. So it's like,
oh, you remember that?
Yes, I remember it. Do I remember it? Yes. It was the most ridiculous time in NBA history. So, yeah. God. And by the way, guys, if you're just joining us, if you're new here, please make sure you subscribe. We would love to have you return to the show, and liking the video is always super helpful. Jake, you want to get to some Prophet X? Because I'm ready. Who did you pick, by the way, to hit a homer today? Was it Wells?
No, I picked Dominguez, and he didn't play.
Oh yeah, that's why you texted me. Well, I had the worst. You picked Cabrera. Possible. I had the worst pick ever. I picked Cabrera. I'm really sorry about that. That sucks. But very, very bad.
We got I don't think we touched the strikeouts. No, we took the first 5, I believe. The first 5 was amazing. Because it was right before the end of the 5th inning. It was the 5th inning when they had that explosive, you know. And then we also took the money line for the Yankees.
Yeah, so we had ourselves a day, is what we did.
Yeah, we ate, as the kids say. Okay.
Yeah, and Yankees for the win before we get to it real quick. Thank you, Yankees, for the super. We really appreciate it. It says, thoughts and prayers for Waldo. The team is shook. Yeah, you saw the faces of the players. Aaron Judge, you saw Ben Rice tapping him before he was taken off the field. There were a lot of players who were shook. And especially when you have guys who return to the team after a few years. I mean, my wife literally was like, is he 21? He's 22? He looks super young. And I pulled it up, and he's 26 years old. He's been with this team now for a bit.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys on our team with relationships with Cabrera. So he's close with a lot of players on this team. It sucked to watch, and it's a bummer for our clubhouse. It is.
It is. So we move on to our Profit X picks. Be sure to use the code YANKSU on Profit X via the app or via the website. So looking at this, we do have some stuff here that we could play around with. I'm going to stick with this first 5 innings thing, okay? I'm going to go total runs, though. Because Brian Wu is on the mound tomorrow. And he's going up against Max Fried.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with the under of 4 runs.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do.
I guess
first 5 innings.
Recent history shows us that would make a lot of sense. Fried has been electric. Wu is electric. He's just been that. And he's a big inning guy. I mean, Fried's got 47 Ks. Wu's got 44. There should be a lot of strikeouts tomorrow. There just should. And the Yankees, I will say, in their defense, I have them winning this game. And I think it's not necessarily about Judge. Obviously, Aaron Judge is the most important player on this team. He always will be. But what's almost as important is what are the other guys doing? What version of Anthony Volpe is showing up to the yard Tuesday night? What's he going to look like, right? What type of bat is Austin Wells swinging? I think that matters, especially the left-handers. Ben Rice, what type of bat's he swinging? I like Cody Bellinger, another left-handed bat for the Yankees that has it going in recent times. So I think Wu is going to run into some trouble tomorrow. I just do. I like that under. I'm taking that pick. But I think the Yankees in general on the money line are winning this game.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to bet against Max Fried. It just is. What did we have today? What did Schmidt do? How many strikeouts did he get?
I believe 6.
Okay. He hasn't quite been as focused on missing bats as Schmidt normally would be. So if they struck out 6 times and I get Fried on over 5.5, I'm doing that.
Okay.
I think Fried gets 6 strikeouts tomorrow.
You do? Okay.
Especially with the batter's eye. I had to say it.
And Seattle isn't a high contact team, right? You saw Rodriguez leave the yard today. That was a bummer.
No, they're
he's
volatile.
having another. He's having another down year, which is unbelievable that I'm even witnessing it. But Seattle in general is not the best offensive unit. People literally that played for the team in Justin Turner, we've mentioned this I think one other time on this show, were literally criticizing what this general manager and what the staff was doing, not giving this offense another shot in the arm in terms of talent. So when Max Fried, who's now the ace of the Yankees, shows up to the park and he's going to face this Seattle team, they've got some guys going, right? Like Cal hit a bomb today. Yeah. I think Fried's going to be great. Those Ks, I probably touch it just because of the innings. Fried should stay on the field, but you also have to remember, Jake, this bullpen is somewhat rested now. This Yankees bullpen, our high leverage guys, really haven't touched the field as much as you'd think they have in recent history. So I don't think Boone is going to hesitate at all tomorrow when it comes to using this bullpen if he really has to. That's the one piece of volatility in this pick, but I still take that over.
Yeah, I like the over there. I like the over for both starting pitchers, but the way the Yankees are hitting, I just feel like betting against the Yankees hitters right now doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I like the under for runs in the first 5. I do. But because I think it's going to be like a 2-1 ball game. But I like the Yankees to win the game, like you do. I like Fried to go over 5.5. And dingers for the road. So here's the funny thing about the Yankees against Wu. They had a total of 4 hits against Wu in his first 2 appearances against them, right? 4 hits in 11 1/3 inning. 4 total hits. The last matchup, the Yankees struck out 7 times in 4 2/3. They had 9 hits in 7 earned runs. So they got to him the last time. Now, my thing is the 2 times he dominated was actually at Yankee Stadium. The time he got crushed was in Seattle.
So the opposite of what your friend said. Your friend's like, they can pitch in Seattle, but when they go on the road, they stink. And then all of a sudden, he just dominates us at Yankee Stadium. By the way, you know who's hitting a home run tomorrow? And I'm really sorry to tell you this, but it's Jason Dominguez. He already has a home run off.
I was going to say that.
Jason Dominguez is hitting a bomb. I'm sorry I said it first, and you can't take it back.
Yeah, Jason Dominguez is hitting a home run tomorrow. I'm all in on that.
So we both agree.
Hit one today, too. So boom, rob him of that. But, yeah, he was already, let the survey show that he was hitting a home run today, but he didn't bat. That is the funniest, thing ever.
It's a draw. But, yeah, guys.
I would have hit a home run if I played today. Okay.
Sounds like one of my Little League teammates would have said.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Jason Dominguez is one of the only guys that has a home run against Brian Wu on this team. So I like Jason Dominguez. Yeah, that's what I'll say there. So dingers for the road. Well, Gary and I are giving you one guy, and that is Jason Dominguez. Now, all of these lines will be updated tomorrow. And you got a lot of time because we have another 9:40 Eastern time game. We love those.
Yeah, absolutely love them. And before my mom, continues to bug me about it, she wants me to give her credit for her Trent Grisham home run, which for those of you who know,
wow.
Yeah, she's in the chat as Lauren Michelle. She called Trent Grisham's home run today. So, and not only that, she didn't call 2 home runs, but we got 2 home runs. So
you did the
I think
same
she read
thing.
She read the tea leaves, and Trent Grisham clearly, regardless of what he's done, he's a different player. And I think that's hard to get yourself into, that Trent Grisham's a threat. He's a threat. He shows up to the plate. He's a competitive at bat. He makes adjustments. It's everything that we ask Yankees hitters to do. It's just weird where we're getting this. Our source is strange. So credit to my mom. Good job.
Yeah, and I just think it's so funny. I saw in the comment section earlier, be like, when J-Rod hit that home run, I just heard Jake echoing he's the most overrated player in the league. And Gary texted me immediately. It is Julio Rodriguez, LOL. It was bruh. But then uncanny. It all worked out because honestly, Trent Grisham, I don't even think hit it out of the yard. Julio Rodriguez aided that. He pushed it out. That was hilarious.
It was destined to be a home run.
I have not seen that. But anyway, fun day, aside from the injury, which really sucks. We wish Cabrera the best. I would say in the comments section, just put something about Cabrera in there.
Something nice.
Something nice.
That'd be good to see.
Let's spread some positivity. They won. They're 7 games above 500. The hitting is turning around. And honestly, the pitching, that's 2 starts in a row where Clark Schmidt has turned out to had a good outing. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but that's 2 outings in a row where you're like, okay, Clark Schmidt, I see you. And that's good. So
not the same Clark Schmidt we're used to.
No, a different.
The command's
Clark Schmidt,
not exactly there. We don't want to be too high maintenance. He had a nice outing today. He gave us what we had to have, and we're happy about that. So this is a building block, right? It's still May 12th. It's the wee hours of May 12th. We need a better version of Clark Schmidt, I think we can all admit, but we'll take these starts, especially when the Yankees offense plays like it's slugfest loaded. So, yeah. Guys, put something nice in the comment section for Cabrera. I think it would be good to see that. It's nice when the comment's not always a debate or something. I think when something like this happens, it'd be cool to see everybody sort of agree to do one thing.
I agree. And like the video.
Heck yeah.